Hey, what's up, guys? Pete, Isip.com. Hope you guys are doing great. I'm here taking a walk with the boys to the park. And I was like, let's shoot the vid. Now I just got a little story to tell you guys. And I know on Monday we talked a little bit about, stories and making sure, the one story is the one that really sets your goals. The second story is the one that you don't believe, right? And I have a little story from when I was in high school. And I'll never forget this. I was a freshman in high school, and it was like a fall day, normal weather, and I had shop class, print class, where we would go in and we got to use X-Acto knives all the time, and like typography and like all those little typesetting things where the old school methods of printing flyers and stuff like that. There were no computers inside that class. There was actually one, and I think it was just like Microsoft Word. I don't even think there's anything else besides that. And everyone else just used their hands, so I used my hands a lot, and they gave me a lot of razor blades. And I loved razor blades. But when I was wrestling, I was a freshman, and there was this kid that was like moving on to be the first ever 3-time state champ, 4-time state champ from Middletown, South New Jersey. And I'll never forget this because he was in my weight class, and he was the top guy in my weight class. Now, nonetheless, I was only a freshman. Guys, I wasn't the best wrestler in the entire planet. I was decent. I started off as really fat, and I just pretty much got my ass pounded for the first couple years. Then I started to get it, and I started to understand, and that's when I changed my ways. But I'll never forget this freshman year when the standings used to come out inside the newspaper. It would be a Wednesday and have like the top wrestlers, the top teams in the state, the top teams in the county. Of course, Belleville used to be up there as a top team in the state, top team in the county, and then have Wrestler of the Week. The Wrestler of the Week was this kid that was a monster, and like I finally actually got to meet him in person, and he's just a tough kid, you know what I mean? I was a freshman. This guy was a junior, and he had one more year. He was going to be a senior, or he's a senior that year, and he was moving on to like his second state title. I'm sorry, and that's such a cool feat. And for me, I was just a young kid, like I was a freshman, and I didn't get it. But I used to make up these stories in my head, and I'd make them up. Like they would be utter complete lies, to the point where inside type class, I would make my own articles up. I would take different fonts from newspapers and magazines and cut them out, and I'd make little articles about me beating up this guy. He literally looked like a guy in comparison to me. I looked like a little kid from Fantasy Island who just didn't wear the tuxedo. But that's what I look like. And this man I beat up in my head. And I would make all these articles every single week. Like Isip takes down 2-time state champ from Middletown South. Isip destroys, I remember that. Isip wins 3-2 in the state finals. And I would make all these articles and I'd put them up in my room. Now, those things might not be true, okay? But in my brain, what this feat was utterly impossible, okay? The only way I would do it is, the only way I would win if it was like the new Rocky, where the guy breaks his hand and all of a sudden I start pounding on him and I start taking him down. Like, this guy wouldn't. The only way I would beat this guy is if he went blind during the match. Not even getting, just because he wouldn't be used to it. If he went blind during the match and all of a sudden his hands and feet fell off, that would be the only way I'd probably be able to beat him as a freshman going into wrestling this guy. But I believed this story. I made these stories up. Now, my first story was, man, I want to wrestle to prove myself as a kid. I want to wrestle because all my friends are doing it and they're tough, and I want to be tough with them, and I want to be a tough kid. I'm just a tough kid, and I know it. And that's why I started wrestling. That was the first story. The second story was that second goal, the goal that was unachievable, but it made me better every day as a wrestler. It made me better every day as a person, as a competitor, because I made up these stories that I would believe. I would believe that, hey, this really happened. God forbid I ever saw that kid in real life. I think he would have punched me directly in the face and broke all my teeth. Or maybe he would just laughed at me, and then that would have been funnier. But I made the story up. So I never had doubt. I never had self-doubt within myself, whatever goal it was. I remember when we opened up this gym, I didn't have any doubt in my mind that we were going to be bad or we were going to fail. There was no such thing. And I don't listen to what other people say. People will tell you that that's retarded, that's impossible, that's no way you could do this, there's no way you could do that. No shit. But if you believe the fact that, if you believe those voices, especially the one voice in your head, then you're never going to even try. You're not even going to give yourself the effort to do so. I may not have won the state championship against that guy. I may not have ever wrestled that guy at that caliber. But every person in between that, I took as a state championship. I took as a district championship. I took as a really important match that I have to make up in my head. Because nothing will ever live up to the articles that I wrote. Because none of them are true. But I used that story to fuel myself to become a better wrestler that day, to become a better wrestler that year, to become a better wrestler the next year. And that's what those stories are for. Those stories are made up, aren't for you to realistically think it's going to happen. You have to shoot for it. Because if you don't even try, then what the fuck's the point of living? What's the point? You might as well just listen to everyone the rest of your life and then nothing's going to happen. And then you're just going to be quite upset with everything and every little outcome that happens. So that's the big story about me with my typesetting and my graphic arts class, is that I made up all these stories. I think you should do the same thing. There's got to be a point in your life where, oh, he's happy. There's got to be a point in your life where you have to lie to yourself. You know, even though maybe not seeing that weight loss is unattainable, maybe not seeing that model figure-esque that you see in your mind might not happen. But why can't you imagine? Why can't you just convince yourself that story is true and that's really going to happen? Because the closer you get to that story, the happier you're going to be. Alright guys, this is Pete. This is way longer than usual. I'll see you guys later. Peace out, Scout.